Hey guys. So over the past 2 months, I was watching NBC's new drama Rise that they just canceled about 2 weeks ago. And if any of you follow us on Stardust, you may have seen my reactions or follow us on the Twitter because I shared the reactions from there. I was following the show entirely through. I watched all 10 episodes and saw that NBC canceled it. And now, as opposed to a full-on review of the show, I thought that it would be kind of interesting to just kind of do an editorial on why I think the show failed. And that's what we're going to do. I may be looking down because I have my notes on a computer just to kind of keep me on track. But we're going to try and do this in one take with as little edits as possible just to get my points across as to why I think it failed. Now first, a little bit of background. The show is based on a book called Drama High, written by Michael Sokolov. I probably butchered that. And apparently it's based on a true story. And if you didn't see the trailers or don't know what it was about, basically we follow the Stanton High School in the state of Pennsylvania. And we follow, I believe his name is Lou Mazzucchelli. I don't actually remember what his last name is, but an English teacher played by Josh Rander, who is, in the first episode, he's fed up with kids. He's fed up with life. He wishes he could inspire kids more, but he can't, and he's not reaching anyone. So he decides to ask the principal of the school if he can take over as the director of the drama department. And he does, and he decides instead of doing a PC play like Pirates of Penzance or Grease or something, he's going to do Spring Awakening, a musical that is apparently incredibly inappropriate. Instead of casting the usual kids from the drama department, he decides to cast the star quarterback for the football team and the minority girl who works at a diner as the two leads. And drama ensues. Now, this show was created by a man by the name of Jason Katims, who was also the creator of NBC's Parenthood, Friday Night Lights, and This Is Us. And also given it as a producing credit is the producer of Hamilton, the musical, Jeffrey Seller. And if I recall from the marketing, the famous playwright, at least famous as of 2 years ago, Lin-Manuel Miranda, is credited with, I believe it was a producing role or something. His name was on the trailers that they were promoting, I thought. And that's basically the premise. And I'm going to get into, I have a few main points that I'm going to make and just kind of talk about. And the first being that from the pilot episode, there are glaring cliches that really in the end become way too hard to overlook as you watch the show. In the first episode, I kind of said to myself afterwards, okay, they have a lot of cliches going on of like the down on his luck English teacher who wants to inspire people, and the quarterback who wants to be more than just a quarterback, or the girl who struggles with life because her mom had her when she was 16 and everyone makes fun of her, and her mom's kind of considered like the town whore or something. And initially I was like, okay, I think they're setting up these cliches, but they're going to do different things with them. And as the episodes went on, it initially kind of tried to do that with oh, the star quarterback's actual mother has, I think it's supposed to be ALS if I remember correctly, and the father remarried with a younger kid, and the father is this big, like, he's the pushover parent or the pushy parent that wants him to just focus on football. And initially, it does that. But in the end, like, it just falls back to doing cliche stories. Like, oh, the set producer doesn't think that he can do things and he's going to be pissed. And oh, the conductor of the pit band got mad because the other guy came in and just started conducting and it humiliated him. Or, and this is towards the end, this is, by the way, spoilers ahead for the show. I really don't think it's worth watching in the end unless you really like good music or musicals or Lin-Manuel Miranda's ego. Anyway, so literally the show ends with the school board has said to Josh Rander's character, Lou, that he can do Spring Awakening, but he has to censor just about everything, and it has to be PC. So no sex, no anything that's in that show. And initially he agrees, but then the principal was like, hey, I have one more thought right before the curtain. So he says, you know what? Screw it. We're going to do the regular show. And I said, as that happened, you know, I bet he like cancels the drama program or something after the show is over. And that's exactly what happened. And it's just, the cliches are so apparent that it kind of is internally painful. And going off of the cliches was this inability that the show had to really balance the vast cast that's in this. There's at least 6 different important subplots. Like, in the overarching season, there are probably about 5 to 6 subplots. And each episode maybe throws in another subplot that gets resolved by the end of the episode. And things just didn't, in that show, things weren't approached properly. Like, I was watching the 8th episode of this 10-episode season. And in this 8th episode, a character we hadn't met yet became pregnant. She's a teenager, so they're doing teenage pregnancy. And it's like the boyfriend is abusive, the dad's an alcoholic. And I'm like, okay, sure, hello, new character. That makes sense. And then in episode 9, they introduced that the transgender gentleman that's in the show, played by an actual transgender person, which I really appreciate that they were representing that community well. But it's the transgender person was like, we used to be friends. I want to support you. I love you. And I'm like, where the hell did that come from? Like, honestly, I have to this day been like, did I forget about an episode? Like, they rushed so much in that show, and they didn't know how to do so many different things. And granted, when they did slow themselves down, take their time to develop characters, shit was really powerful. Like, in the second episode, this is one in particular, in the second episode of the season, the character of Gwen finds out that, if I'm not mistaken, and I might be getting some of the timing wrong on where it was in the show, but the character of Gwen finds out that her parents are getting divorced. And she also finds out that she will not be the lead in the musical, and she's always the lead in the musicals. And there is a brilliant scene where she's talking to Josh Rander's character about, like, I think it should be me. And he's like, no, I think you're more suited for this character. For example, she sings the song Purple Summer, and Amy Forsyth, who plays Gwen, breaks into song and sings Purple Summer. But in that moment, like, the way she is, first of all, she absolutely crushes the cover, crushes it, but you can, like, watch the character's heart breaking as she's singing, and, like, there's montages of what's going on around, and that was a moment where I was almost crying. Like, it really did work. And the 5th episode, which is called We've All Got Our Junk, was the only episode that I rated in my head a 5 out of 5. And I'm admittedly blanking right now on what happened in the episode, but it just worked. it did. I remember it did tackle a lot of stuff about teenagers dealing with divorce and really heavy topics with such effectiveness. So when it did work, it really worked. But when it didn't, you have things like the transgender kid being like, I love you, person who we just met one episode ago. And I'm like, slow yourself. Slow down, and maybe you'll actually succeed. And the other glaring issue that I had with the show was that it really just didn't know what it wanted to be. It lacked identity. If you could tell from when I was reading off the different producers involved in this, between the guy from Hamilton, the guy who did Friday Night Lights and This Is Us, you can tell that, hopefully you are able to tell that, like, it's the perfect example of too many cooks in the kitchen. The show doesn't know what it wants to be. In the first 2 to 3 episodes, it takes this extremely anti-sports approach to just the narrative as a whole. It's like, come on, quarterback guy, the sports field doesn't have what you need, the theater does. And I'm like, okay, and they portray the coach of the football team to be a real dick. For one thing, he's a cheater, but he's also just like he cheats on his wife, who, by the way, he's also Gwen's father. There's so many subplots that I might just be throwing stuff in randomly, but the show throws things randomly, so who cares? But they paint the coach to be this awful human being who's just unreasonable and demands too much out of his players. And I'm like, okay, I don't agree with that portrayal, but sure. And then we get to the 4th episode, in which there is a football game played, and you get that Friday Night Lights style, like, football game set to, I think it's set to, the montage is set to Unstoppable by The Score. Excellent song, by the way. And, like, everybody's having fun. Even the theater kids are having a great time, and sports, and yay, it's great. And I'm like, but wait, I thought you told me to hate sports, because sports are evil, because it's not the theater, and the coach is a dick. And, like, so it does that. And then it, like, there's a character who finds out, they're alluding through the whole season that he is going to end up being gay, because he has a gay kissing scene with a character in the show. In the musical, on top of in the show, he does actually kiss that person. And he's doing this whole, like, oh, I'm going to date someone to hide that I'm gay, and all of those cliches. And the whole subplot with the kid is that his parents are super religious, like to the point where the father transfers his kid to another school for a hot second, just to be at a magnet school, a religious magnet school where they wouldn't put on such smut like this. And at one point, the father signs a petition to have the musical taken down. He signs his name and the mother's name, and that creates a fight. And that they are just flat out anti-religion. And I personally, I was like, okay, again, Lin-Manuel, I know you probably are an atheist and don't like religion, but if someone gets something out of it, that's fine. That's good for them. You're kind of being a dick about how to portray your characters. And, like, there's just so many mixed messages in that show, which really hurt, I think, in the end, its chances. And even though Lin-Manuel Miranda is not directly credited as a producer from the research I did, his paws are everywhere on this project. In the first episode, it's alluded to the fact that Josh Rander's character's kids are, like, huge musical fans. And, of course, Lou comes home, and his kids are sitting rapping to the music of Hamilton, and they've got Hamilton every single theater nerd in that goddamn show has a Hamilton poster. And I'm like, yep, stroke your ego, Lin-Manuel. Come on. Like, his ego is everywhere, and I really think his message, his lack of knowing what the message is going to be, really hurt the show's chances. And in my mind, the cancellation was inevitable because it never knew exactly what it wanted to be or how to tell the stories it was going to tell. So even though it had some great music and some great emotional moments, it got canceled because it didn't know what to be. So this was a little bit different than our usual reviews. Let me know in the comments down below if you liked it or if you didn't. And we might do more of these. Thanks for watching, guys. See you around.